Heartland Canadian TV series. Heartland is a Canadian family comedy drama television series which debuted in Canada on CBC on October 14, 2007. The series is based on the Heartland book series by Lauren Brooke and follows Amy Fleming and her older sister Louise Lou Fleming on their Albertan-based family ranch, Heartland, where they live with their widowed grandfather Jack Bartlett, their father Tim Fleming, and hired farmhand Ty Borden. While experiencing the highs and lows of life on the ranch, the family bonds and grows closer. With the airing of its 139th episode on March 29, 2015, Heartland surpassed Street Legal as the longest-running one-hour scripted drama in Canadian television history. On June 2, 2021, CBC renewed the series for a 15th 10-episode season. In the United States, the series has wide distribution through broadcast syndication on weekends, including as part of the default national schedule for the CW+. Older episodes air on BYUtv, Retro TV, COZI TV, and Heartland, which is not named for the series. It was also a part of the schedule on the defunct Light TV. Cast and characters. Main: Amber Marshall as Amy Fleming. The protagonist of the series, Amy practices natural horsemanship, the intuitive training and healing method used by her late mother, Marion. When Amy was 15, she was seriously injured in a car crash that killed Marion. They were living with Marion's father, Amy's grandfather, Jack, on his ranch Heartland. While Amy recuperated, her estranged father, Tim, returned. Jack had banished Tim years earlier due to Tim's alcohol and drug use. Amy adjusts to her father re-entering her life, while older sister, Lou, who works in New York City, returns to Heartland after Marion's death. Jack begrudgingly accepts Tim, who tries to make amends for the past. Over time, Amy develops a close relationship with Ty Borden, a ranch hand working at Heartland as part of his probation. They fall in love, though the relationship is occasionally rocky. In the last episode of Season 5, Ty plans to propose to Amy, but decides against it after overhearing her say she does not want to be tied down. They eventually marry, and, at the end of Season 9, Amy is pregnant. At the end of Season 10, Amy gives birth to a girl, Lindy Marion. In Season 13, Amy and Ty become foster parents to Luke. Season 14 sees Amy dealing with Ty's accidental death and coping with being a single mother. Michelle Morgan as Samantha Louise Lou Fleming Maurice. As the series opens, Lou returns home to help run Heartland, leaving behind her boyfriend and a lucrative business job in New York City. Upon discovering Heartland's poor financial situation, she crafts a financial plan to make the ranch profitable. After securing a bank loan, Lou takes over the business end of Heartland and later proposes creating the Heartland Equestrian Connection as a corporate retreat center. Family members derisively consider it as a dude ranch. Lou rekindles a romance with local vet Scott Cardinal. That relationship dissolves in Season 2. She then meets Peter Maurice, but their relationship is complicated by Peter's job in the oil industry. Lou and Peter marry at the end of Season 3 and move to Dubai. Lou misses Heartland and her family, and they move back. She gives birth to daughter Catherine Marion Minnie Fleming Maurice Katie. Lou and Peter eventually buy Mr. Hanley's ranch. However, a fire demolishes the buildings and forces them to remain at Heartland. In Season 6, Lou and Peter adopt Georgina Crawley. In Season 8, Peter's frequent long work absences stresses their marriage and the couple separate. Lou is attracted to new stable hand, Mitch. Peter regularly visits his daughters, complicating Lou and Mitch's budding romance. In Season 7, Lou buys Maggie's diner and runs it with Tim, her supposedly silent business partner. Lou works on bringing Maggie's to New York City and spends much time commuting back and forth. Sean Johnston as Jack Bartlett. Jack, the family patriarch, was Marion's father and is Amy and Lou's grandfather. A former rodeo star, he owns Heartland. When Marion took over Heartland, it became a horse ranch. After her death, Jack helps Amy and Ty maintain Heartland and its horses, and also repairs broken equipment, fences, and the like. Early in the series, he has a strained relationship with ex-son-in-law Tim, stemming from Tim's troubled past with alcohol and prescription drug abuse, his acrimonious divorce from Marion, and neglecting Amy and Lou when they were younger. Jack barely tolerates Tim at times, and they frequently argue over the running of the ranch. Jack was initially judgmental towards the new ranch hand, Ty, but gradually considers him like a son. Jack gives his blessing to Ty and Amy marrying. Jack's stubbornness and resistance to change sometimes causes friction between him and others, particularly with his romantic interest, Lisa Stillman, and granddaughter, Lou. Jack and Lisa elope in the season 7 finale. Jack suffers a heart attack and collapses in the field. Tim finds and saves him. Jack dotes on his 3 great-granddaughters, Katie, Georgie, and Lindy. Alicia Newton as Georgina Georgie Fleming Maurice Crawley. Georgie is Lou and Peter's adopted daughter who was orphaned at age 3 after the foster care system separated her and her brother, Jeff. Georgie developed serious behavioral problems, though her behavior gradually improves. Georgie adores Katie, her little sister. She also loves Phoenix, an abused horse. Georgie, a natural equestrian and a tomboy, is fearless, talented, strong-minded, and clever. This initially makes Mallory, a young family friend, jealous. In season 6, Georgie finds a stray Alsatian that she names Remy. Georgie grows close to the family but occasionally misbehaves, even running away once. She later develops a grudging friendship with her rival, Olivia. In later seasons, Georgie and Olivia join the Extreme Team, a trick riding group, replacing show jumping as Georgie's main equestrian activity. Georgie has difficulty balancing schoolwork, ranch life, and trick riding. She develops romantic feelings for Adam Parker, her tutor. Although he reciprocates her feelings, Adam's father disapproves, believing Georgie is a bad influence. Georgie and Adam briefly date, but break up when Adam thinks she has feelings for Clay McMurtry. Georgie becomes friends with Jade Varani. By seasons 14 and 15, she is in a relationship with newcomer Quinn. He encourages Georgie to revive her dream of competing in the Olympics. She begins training at his family's Florida ranch. Although billed as main cast during this time, Georgie later becomes more of a recurring character due to her infrequent visits back to Heartland. Chris Potter as Timothy Tim Fleming. Tim is Amy's and Lou's father who left the family after he and Marion separated. Lou was 14 and Amy was 5. After a rodeo accident, he struggled with prescription drug painkiller abuse and alcoholism. As a result, Jack kicked Tim out. After Amy and Lou's mother dies, he returns, moving to Big River Ranch, near Heartland. Tim has a relationship with the previous owner's daughter, who inherited the ranch. He later dates a jockey named Janice and nearly moves to California with her. However, in season 4, episode 18, Burning Down the House, it is discovered that Tim has an 11-year-old son named Shane with Miranda Grenier, his ex-girlfriend. When he reveals this to Janice, she leaves for California without him. Shane stays with Tim at Heartland for a short period. After a brief custody battle, Shane returns to live with his mother, who later remarries. Tim starts a rodeo school, a horse-selling business, and begins a new relationship. After moving on, he has a long-term relationship with Casey. His star rodeo pupils are Jade Varani and Clay McMurtry, teenage bronc riders. Supporting Kerry James as Caleb Odell. Caleb is a ranch hand hired by Jack after Ty leaves for 4 months. In the beginning he is rather husky, has feelings for Amy, and develops a strong rivalry with Ty. He and Amy have a short-lived relationship, but Amy soon goes back to Ty. He falls in love with Ashley Stanton, eventually marrying her. Caleb is a rodeo cowboy. Before marrying Ashley, Caleb is severely injured at a rodeo. After battling prescription drugs and alcohol, much like Tim's, he recovers but is much thinner. Caleb and Ashley have a difficult marriage, struggling with financial problems, pressure from Val Stanton, Ashley's mother, and differing life goals. Caleb and Ashley eloped, but after discovering that their officiator's license had expired, they have a wedding outside Caleb's trailer where they had been living. They honeymoon in Italy and stay with one of Val's friends, but Caleb returns alone. Ashley eventually returns and decides to pursue post-secondary education in Vancouver. Caleb moves there to be with Ashley, but they drift apart as she makes new friends and spends more time away from Caleb. They eventually divorce, and Caleb returns to Hudson and resumes working at Heartland while seasonally competing at the rodeo. After Ashley, Caleb pursues Lou's friend Nicole, who had moved from New York and works for Lou at the ranch. He has a relationship with Cassandra, who was a vet student working from at Scott's clinic. Caleb and Cass have a pregnancy scare. They almost break up, but marry at the end of season 10. Ty and Amy were to attend, but Amy went into labor just as they arrived, and they had to rush home. Caleb and Cassandra discover they are expecting in season 13 The Art of Trusts. Cassandra gives birth to their son, Carson, sometime between the season 13 finale and the season 14 premiere. Gabriel Hogan as Peter Walter Morris. Peter is Lou's ex-husband. He was first introduced as PW, the owner of a small oil company called Bedford Oil that is caught drilling on Heartland property. Lou organized a protest against PW Company. In the meantime, one of Lisa's horse friends gives out Lou's email without her permission. Lou using her first name, Sam, and PW using his first name, Peter, begin a relationship over an instant messaging service. After meeting, they are shocked to discover each other's identity. Their relationship is kept secret because both Jack and Tim hate PW for being part of Big Oil. Peter eventually wins the family's approval and he and Lou are married in the season 3 finale. Peter's business immediately takes them to Dubai. Lou returns home for a one-week visit that stretches on because she misses Heartland and her family. Peter commutes to and from Dubai because Lou is expecting their first child. Peter ends up bankrupt in Dubai and asks to move in with Lou at Jack's house. Peter recovers financially, but is only home on weekends due to his new job's location in Vancouver. In season 6, Lou and Peter adopt Georgie after Jack is not approved as her legal guardian. Lou and Peter separate because Peter is always away in Vancouver. Peter is discovered to have a girlfriend in Vancouver, which causes Lou to end the relationship. Peter continues visiting Heartland to see his daughters. Nathaniel Arkand as Scott Cardinal, a close native Canadian, friend of the Bartlett/Fleming household and also Heartland's vet. Scott had a troubled background, but Marion helped him to turn his life around. He later regrets losing her and for not trying harder to win her back. In season 2, Ty tells Amy that Scott has agreed to let Ty be his apprentice and that Scott will mentor him to possibly work with him after veterinary school. Ty eventually attends veterinary school at the University of Calgary and works part-time at Scott's clinic in later seasons. He is also joined by Cassandra, another U of C vet student, who is a year or two ahead of Ty. Scott later offers Ty to be his partner in the clinic. Jessica Steen as Lisa Stillman. Lisa is the charismatic owner of Fairfield Stables and a well-known horse breeder. She is introduced when she comes to Amy for help with a horse in the first few episodes of the series. Jack and Lisa seem to have chemistry in that episode and begin a romantic relationship a few episodes later. Lisa is often in the south of France seasonally for work, and her jet-setting lifestyle becomes a difficulty in her relationship with Jack. They remain together for several seasons until they break up in season 6 after he visits her in France but does not enjoy himself, feeling out of place in the fancy places they visit. After a lengthy break, Lisa returns to Heartland and reunites with Jack. At the end of season 7, They elope but decide to continue living separately at the time, as they were more comfortable this way. In season 11, it is revealed Lisa's business is floundering. She struggles to keep Fairfield running and all her staff employed, a fact she initially hides from Jack. She eventually admits her problems and asks to move in with him at Heartland, to which he readily agrees. Lisa is also the godmother to Lou and Peter's daughter, Katie. Apocryphally, she is Georgie's godmother, as well, a detail revealed only in Lou's Mom's the Word blog, but has not been explicitly mentioned in series. Zia Matheson as Katie Fleming Maurice Catherine Katie Marion Minnie Fleming Maurice is Lou and Peter's only biological daughter, born in episode 67, Passages. As an infant, the family took a large amount of time getting her to sleep through the night, and an episode featured this difficulty. Mallory is often brought in to babysit, since she's often at Heartland anyway, and interested in earning extra cash. In season 7, Katie often cries at night for Lou, who is in the Atlantic provinces on a tour for her book, Mom's the Word. Katie also starts bedwetting, presumably for the same reason. As a result, Peter and Katie eventually join Lou on her book tour. Later in the series, Lou worries that Katie is not progressing as she should, taking her to see a pediatrician to check for abnormalities. This causes friction between Lou and Peter, as he believes that Katie is fine, which turns out to be the case. As of season 10, Katie is a young, energetic girl who enjoys spending time with her family, especially her adoptive older sister Georgie and her great-grandfather. She has a favorite stuffed toy pony called Pogie. As a baby, Katie was played by twin sisters Kara and Jordan, and between season 8 and season 11, Katie was portrayed by Julia Marin Baker, who was replaced by Matheson in season 12. Lucian River Chauhan as Luke Kashani. Luke is a troubled foster kid that Clint brings to Heartland hoping Amy and Ty could help him. Over time, and despite some difficulties, he becomes a part of the family. After his biological mother realizes she should not have custody of him, it is decided it is in the boy's best interest to remain at Heartland. In season 13, Amy and Ty become his foster parents. Recurring, Laura Sadek as Dr. Tricia Varani. She is Jade's mother. Although she arrived in Heartland as a tourist, Lou soon requested her help to tend to Jack in exchange for riding lessons. While Tim offers to be an instructor, they eventually end up having a brief love affair. Kevin McGarry as Mitch Cutty. Mitch is hired as a ranch hand at Heartland and works hard to earn the family's respect, especially with Jack and Tim. After much hostility, Tim nicknames Mitch Trooper after a tenacious but respectable bronc on the circuit. Following an awkward first date, Mitch and Lou enter into an off-and-on relationship. Mitch is troubled by guilt due to the loss of his cousin to PTSD, but confides in Lou and they earn each other's trust. Following a breakup with Lou, Mitch begins dating New Age yoga instructor Maya, which forces Lou to confront her true feelings for him. Roger LeBlanc as Bob Granger. Bob runs a wildlife reserve. Kateem O'Connor as Adam Parker. Adam is Georgie's math tutor and becomes her first serious boyfriend. Helen Colliander as Olivia Wheaton. Olivia is Georgie's rival throughout the series, but later becomes her friend. Victoria Pratt as Casey McMurtry. Casey, formerly a pro barrel racer, was in a relationship with Tim when she returns to Hudson after the death of her husband, Hank the Tank McMurtry. She convinced Tim to start a rodeo school. She is sister-in-law to Jen, Lou's current Dude Ranch and Maggie's diner manager, and to Wyatt and Brick. Following Tim's brain cancer scare, Tim pushes Casey away, eventually leading to a permanent breakup. Madison Chioto as Jade Varani. Jade is Georgie's friend and Dr. Varani's daughter. She is a bronc rider and lives in Caleb's old trailer for a time to assert her independence. Tim is doubtful of Jade at first but grows to respect her tenacity and talent. Kaitlyn Lieb as Cassandra Odell. Introduced as one of Ty's classmates at veterinarian school, Cassandra ends up working at the vet clinic with Ty. She initially appears to be an ambitious and arrogant know-it-all, which makes Amy uncomfortable. She is romantically involved with Jeremy Hughes until he sabotages Heartland, after which she is fired from the vet clinic and forced to take a job at the Dude Ranch, to which she is ill-suited. Scott convinces a reluctant Ty to give Cass another chance at their understaffed clinic, where she eventually becomes a good friend to Amy and Ty. She and Caleb wind up in a long-term relationship and are married in the final episode of Season 10. And in Season 13, Episode 7, Cassandra tells Caleb that she's pregnant with their first child. Between Seasons 13 and 14, Cassandra gives birth to her son, Carson. Greta Oniago as Soraya Duval, Amy's best friend, who works at Maggie's, her mom's diner. Soraya always supports Amy and becomes friends with Ashley around the same time as Amy. She later visits London, England, and meets a new boyfriend. In Season 5, Soraya moves to London permanently. She briefly returns at the end of Season 8 to attend Amy and Ty's wedding at the Heartland Ranch. Wanda Cannon as Valerie Val Stanton, Ashley and Jess's widowed mother, and the main antagonist throughout much of the series. Val is the proud owner of Briar Ridge Stables and uses more traditional methods of horse training compared to Heartland. Val puts too much pressure on Ashley to win horse shows, but loves and spoils her daughter. She is also friends with Jack, particularly when Jack helps her to work on her relationship with her daughter after Ashley becomes more independent and rebellious. Anna Ferguson as Mrs. Sally Bell, a longtime family friend of the Fleming/Bartlett family, who owns Sugarfoot, a cute Shetland pony whom Lou learned to ride on. Mrs. Bell keeps Sugarfoot in her house as a companion and prefers using her herbal remedies on him rather than having him cared for by Scott or the farrier. Mrs. Bell made Marion's and Amy's wedding dresses. Her last appearance to date was Amy and Ty's wedding. Ruby and Emanuela Spencer as Lindy Marion Borden, Amy and Ty's daughter, born in episode 175, Greater Expectations. Her guardians' godparents, should anything happen to Amy and Ty, are Caleb and Cassandra. Michelle Nolden as Jessica Cook. Jessica is Lou's former Strickland and cook boss from New York. She comes to Hudson to meet with Lou to apologize for firing her back in Season 1. Lou had formerly been deeply resentful of the firing, believing Jessica to be cutthroat and brutal in her business life. Jessica, however, reveals she recently went through a bout with cancer. As a result, she turned over a new leaf, quit the firm, and decided to travel and indulge in her hobbies, one of which is photography. Her stay in Hudson goes longer than anticipated, leading to sparks flying between her and Tim. Former cast: Maine, Jessica Emily as Mallory Wells Anderson, a friend of the family, who visited frequently and often stayed overnight. Mallory is the daughter of a Canadian country music artist, real-life Canadian country music artist George Canyon, whose music she finds annoying and is hired by Lou to babysit Katie on a regular basis. She was mostly known for talking too much and prying into everyone's personal lives, which often got her into trouble. Mallory rides the horses at Heartland and participates in jumping competitions. She is easily infatuated with boys and has a crush on Ty early in the series, though her main love interests wind up being Jake Anderson and Badger. Mallory leaves Heartland several times, most significantly to attend an all-girls boarding school to which she is sent by her parents when her father goes on tour the first time. Jake helps her buy a bus ticket and return to Heartland. At the end of Season 5, she announced with dismay that she was moving to Nashville for her father's music career, though she and her family returned to Canada in Season 6. In Season 7, she finally confessed her feelings for Jake and went with him to Paris. In Season 10, Episode 14, Mallory came back to Heartland and married him. Cindy Busby as Ashley Stanton in Season 1, she fulfilled the archetype of the high school mean girl, but after Amy helps Ashley improve her show jumping and later saves her horse Apollo, Ashley warms up to Amy and her best friend Soraya. Ashley's character develops substantially from this point, and she is shown to struggle in her relationship with her mother. As a result, she lives at Heartland for a short period of time and later stays with Caleb in his rented trailer. Ashley gradually falls for Caleb in season 2 and starts a serious relationship with him, and they marry in the season 3 finale. It took Ashley a while to come back from their honeymoon in Italy, resulting in Caleb coming home alone. Later in the series, Ashley and Caleb moved away so she could attend college. Caleb returned alone again, and they eventually got a divorce. A divorce? In season 7, episode 9, she comes back to see her friends. She's now becoming a lawyer. Graham Wardle as Ty Borden. When Ty was a child, he was abused by his stepfather Wade, whom he attacked for assaulting Ty's mother. The incident resulted in Ty's arrest and being sent to juvenile hall. To complete his probation, Marion Fleming offered him a job as a ranch hand at Heartland. He soon begins to enjoy his life there and decides to stay after completing his probation, though he leaves for a short period to live with his biological father in Calgary. Jack treats Ty like a son and is very proud of him, especially after he earns his high school diploma and decides to study to become a vet. Ty at first is known as the new cute guy by Amy's friends, and Amy quickly falls for him. Ty dated Kit Bailey, a local cowgirl, for a time before he admitted his feelings for Amy. He and Amy have a tumultuous relationship over the subsequent seasons. In the final episode of season 5, Ty buys a ring with plans to propose to Amy, but rethinks his proposal after hearing Amy say they should never tie themselves down. When Amy discovers the ring, Ty and Amy agree to wait, and Ty is accepted to vet school and begins assisting Scott at his clinic. While camping, Ty finds the perfect moment to propose to Amy, who accepts, and they later marry. After Amy tells Ty that he is going to become a father, she supports his decision to go to Mongolia to save the last of the go-by bears with Veterinarians Without Borders. Near the end of the season 10, Ty contracts a potentially life-threatening illness from a tick bite and returns to Calgary in critical condition. He is immediately taken to the hospital, where they help him to slowly recover. At the end of the season, Caleb breaks Ty out of the hospital so that Ty can participate in Caleb's wedding to Cass as the best man. However, Amy goes into labor as they arrive at the church, and they rush home for the birth of their daughter. In season 13, Amy and Ty become foster parents to a young boy named Luke. In the first episode of season 14, Ty suddenly collapses and dies from deep vein thrombosis, a complication arising after being shot at the end of season 13. Recurring: Jade Hassan as Prince Ahmed Al-Said, a wealthy prince. The initially rude Ahmed asks Amy for help with his father's horse. After working with the horse, Ahmed becomes more friendly towards her, eventually falling for her and showering her with expensive gifts. He offers Amy the opportunity to accompany him on a European tour. However, when he displays his affection for her, she does not return the sentiment. Ahmed appears in 8 episodes, culminating in a physical exchange with Ty in season 8. Maxim Roy as Miranda Grenier, Shane's overprotective mother and Tim's ex-girlfriend. Miranda only wants what's best for her son, but moves frequently to prevent Shane learning who his father is, as she is scared of losing him. Her strained relationship with Tim results in a custody battle over Shane, though they manage to work things out. Sam Duke is Shane Grenier Fleming, Tim's revealed son, and Lou and Amy's half-brother, who was conceived during a casual relationship between Tim and Miranda while Tim lived in Fort St. John during the years after his rodeo accident before he returned to Hudson. When Miranda reveals to Tim that Shane is his 11-year-old son in burning down the house, the relationship is confirmed with a paternity test and upsets Tim's family and friends when they discover the truth. Shane tends to run away and hitchhike to visit Heartland to visit his family and his horse, Pal, and wishes that Miranda and Tim would reconcile and become friends. Reese Ward as Jeremy Hughes, a professional show jumper who refused Ty and Scott's treatment for his horse Buckingham, as it would prevent him from continuing his jumping career during the season. He quickly captures Mallory's attention, though she is disappointed to discover his interest in her was to find a way to gain access to Phoenix, who he saw as a suitable replacement for Buckingham, and that he is already in a casual relationship with Ty's classmate Cassandra. Jeremy attempts to trick Amy into giving him Phoenix in order to save Buckingham from a risky surgery by getting her drunk to agree, though she turns against his deal for Georgie's sake. He later reappears, ostensibly offering to train Mallory for a show jumping competition, but had actually been using her to get closer to Phoenix. He tries to frame Ty for the death of Buckingham, using his relationship with Cassandra in the process, but is found guilty of killing his horse. Vincent Antoine as Nicole Lou's friend from New York. She first had one guest appearance in season 2, joining Lou and her other friends on a trip. Lisa Langlois as Marion Bartlett Fleming, Lou and Amy's mother, Tim's ex-wife, Jack's daughter. Marion became interested in being a horse whisperer after Tim left her, although Amy always describes this simply as listening to horses. At the beginning of the show, Marion is killed in a car accident when she and Amy rescue Spartan from his abusive former owner, Mr. Mallon. Marion is seen in only 2 of the early episodes. Jake Church as Jake Anderson, a young cowboy who is always trying to catch Mallory's eye. In season 7, he asks Mallory to go with him to Paris, France, and she agrees. The two eventually get married in season 10, episode 14. Jack Knight as Badger, a juvenile delinquent who is introduced in Do or Die with his best friend Tara. He is often quiet, but eventually becomes comfortable enough to talk, and he has shown to be a talented artist. He is another one of Mallory's love interests and kisses her. He has a troubled family life and feels as though he does not belong anywhere, resulting in his leaving and returning to Heartland erratically without letting others know. After a Heartland Christmas, Badger isn't seen or mentioned again. Siobhan Williams as Jamie, Louise, Mallory's ex-Pony Club friend who is introduced in season 3 when she invites Mallory to try out for the club's pole bending competition. She reappears in season 4 as Jake's new love interest. Wesley McInnes as Austin Mars, an aspiring country musician introduced in season 5. He is torn between his feelings for Mallory and the chance to get to her famous musician father. Greg Lawson as Clint Riley, Ty's former probation officer and George's former social worker. Clint is Tara and Badger's probation officer. Clint keeps his clients on a tight schedule. Clint is allergic to peanuts. Kristen Fairley as Tara, Badger's goth juvenile delinquent best friend. She is introduced in season 2. At first, Tara bullies Mallory and judges her, calling her names based on her appearance, blonde hair, and pink clothes and bubbly personality. The girls eventually become friends. Tara agrees to give horseback riding a try if Mallory will go goth to freak her parents out. After Do or Die, Tara isn't seen again, although she is mentioned in the episode The Haunting of Hanley Barn. Tatiana Maslany as Catherine, Kit Bailey, Ty's punk cowgirl ex-girlfriend. Kit enjoys barrel racing on her horse Daisy. Kit's methods for breaking a horse are very different from Amy's. Amy is jealous of Kit at first, but the girls eventually become friends. Jeff Roop as Constable Mark Rodriguez, an RCMP officer who initially comes to Heartland because his horse, Venture, developed a fear of water after Const. Rodriguez saved a drowning boy. At first, he seemed to care no more for his horse than as a mode of transportation. Amy saw how he secretly cared deeply for him. On his first visit to the ranch, Lou makes a fool of herself in front of him, and he is later revealed to have a crush on her. They dated briefly after Lou and Scott broke up. Lou eventually caught Constable Rodriguez cheating on her and broke up with him. Tom Carey as Wiz is a very shady man and an enemy of Amy's family introduced in Born to Run. He's a cruel cowboy who was helping some local ranchers round up wild mustangs to DNA test and release. However, It turned out that he had plans to sell them to a meat truck. Mallory discovered the feedlot where the Mustangs were being kept, and Amy released them, preventing Wes from trucking them away, effectively saving the Mustangs. Wes took revenge one night when Amy, Ty, Lou, and Scott were away at parties, a semi-formal and a college reunion. He started a fire in the barn using a match and plenty of gasoline as an accelerant. Jack was injured while rescuing the horses and lost his memory of the incident, but later remembered and had Wes arrested. In a later season, he steals Spartan in the middle of the night and legally buys him at an auction. Wes's plan was to sell Spartan for more money so that Amy would never see her horse again. After beating Wes up, Tim and Jack rescue Spartan and return him home to Amy. After the ties that bind, Wes isn't seen or mentioned again. Eden Tomney Season 1 and John McLaren Season 8 as Jess Stanton, Val's son, Ashley's brother, and Amy's boyfriend when her mother died. Ashley and Jess threw a pool party while Val was out of town. Amy broke up with Jess after he became drunk, tried to kiss her, and then was planning to drive her home while under the influence. Seeing Jess trying to wrest his keys back from Amy, Ty thought she was being hurt and beat Jess up. Jess returns in Season 8 to take over his mother's stables, become Amy's rival, and threaten Amy and Ty's marriage. Craig Arnold as Jeffrey Jeff Crawley, Georgie's biological older brother. His parents died in a car accident. Jeff lives somewhere else, but he keeps in touch with his little sister. Jeff looks up to Ty. Even though Jeff doesn't spend time with Georgie when he comes to visit, he does care about her. After Written in Stone, Jeff isn't seen again. Megan Rath as Jennifer Jen is a Black Canadian friend of Amy's, who appears only in the pilot episode Coming Home. Jen went to school with Amy and tried to comfort her after Marion died. Jen's the one who talked Amy into going to Ashley and Jess's pool party while Val was out of town. Graham Abbey as Steve is one of Lou's high school friends who got a job at the bank at some point after graduation. Steve helps Lou get her business plan for Heartland approved in order for her to get a loan and save the ranch. The bank approves on the condition that Lou stays at Heartland to run the business side. After the pilot, Steve isn't seen or mentioned again. Carson Pound as Stephen is a school friend of Georgie's. Miranda Frigon as Janice Wayne. Janice is a previous girlfriend of Tim's with a personality much like his. She is a jockey and races his horses. Tim and Janice almost moved to California together. Kate Drummond as Paula Westfield. Paula Westfield is a member of Hudson's high society with an attitude to match. She is Peyton's mother and Dylan Westfield's aunt. Jenny Steele as Emma Fitzroy. Emma Fitzroy first appeared in the season 14 finale. She is a woman of wealth who initially decided to donate to Cooper Hughes Equine Therapy Ranch before pulling out when Cooper's grant fell through. She was later convinced to reconsider after learning of Amy's involvement in the program. Others: Susan Coy as Margaret. Maggie Duval Sorey as Smart, Alec mother, and Marion's best friend, who was the original owner of the tack and feed store Maggie's Diner. Maggie leaves in early season 7 to live in London, England, to be near Soria. Keegan Connor Tracy as Crystal, Georgie's biological aunt, who has intentions that are not initially seen. After Georgie breaks her arm, Crystal visits Heartland and files child abuse claims against Lou and Peter to extort money from them in exchange for dropping the charges. Georgie and the social worker overhear this, and Crystal leaves empty-handed and facing a possible arrest. Ken Cardinal as Victor Whitetail, Marion's good friend. Victor enjoys golf and once had an affair with Marion after Tim left her. Victor's horse style is different from Amy's, and he helps her a couple times during the series. Torrance Coombs as Chase Powers, Amy's rival in the Ring of Fire. Following a clinic they did together, he kisses her. Later, Ty confronts him about it and hits him twice, once for running Mrs. Bell off the road and once for kissing Amy. While getting ice for the bruises, Chase and Soraya become friends. He is later invited to Amy and Soraya's graduation party as Soraya's date. There he kisses Soria and they begin dating. In Leap of Faith, he asks Amy to come along with him and Soria to a movie. He tells Amy when she arrives that Soria had to study. After the movie, it is shown that he still likes Amy. During the river, Soria ends the relationship. Rael Trujillo as Renard, Amy's new friend, who runs Dark Horse, a popular traveling horse show. Emma Lahana as Blair Connor, a friend of Ty's, who spent time with him working at a ranch in Montana. She came with him to Heartland when he returned to Amy in season 4. She was the source of considerable friction between Amy and Ty when she pursued Ty during her first appearance, and later when she told her boyfriend, Grant, that she and Ty had hooked up. Bo Murchoff as Benjamin Ben Stillman, Lisa's arrogant nephew. Ben competes in show jumping competitions with his horse Red. He worked at Heartland for part of a season, but then he goes to work for Nick Harwell. He later fires Nick Harwell and goes back to his aunt's stables. Later in season 2, he leaves Briar Ridge and attends a university. Stephen Emile as Nicholas Nick Harwell, a champion rider. Amy helps Nick's horse in Born to Run. Episodes. Filming locations. Much of the series is filmed on location in and around High River, Alberta, with additional filming in studio and on location in nearby Calgary. A June 2013 flood in High River swamped the standing set for Maggie's Diner. The main Heartland sets escaped damage, and seventh season scripts were rewritten to move shooting locations for the fictional town of Hudson to include a historic neighborhood in downtown Calgary. A month after the flood, the show's Calgary studios offered behind-the-scenes tours to paying fans for a one-day Heartlanders for High River fundraiser, providing $80,000 to help the town recover. Heartland filmed some of its interiors at an abandoned military base, Curry Barracks, scheduled for redevelopment. Home media. Entertainment. One has released the first 7 seasons of Heartland on DVD in Region 1 Canada only. The standalone TV movie A Heartland Christmas was released on DVD in Canada on November 1, 2011, and in the United States on October 29, 2013. Season 8 was released in Canada on October 6, 2015. In Region 2, 4 Digital Media has released the first 6 seasons on DVD in the UK. In Region 4, Season 1 and Season 2 Parts 1 and 2 have been released by Rojo Home Video. Ratings. In its series premiere, Heartland beat Global's comedy Doc Inc. in My Hair with 513,000 viewers in a battle of 2 new series. After 4 episodes, Heartland had an average viewership of 464,000. In its first season finale, Heartland attracted 625,000 viewers. The third season premiere brought in over 1 million viewers, a new record for the show. The 100th episode, After All We've Been Through, was watched by 945,000 viewers. Spin-off web series. A 6-part spin-off web series titled Hudson with Jade Varane as the protagonist was released on CBC Gem on March 31, 2019. It won the Best Web Series award at the Calgary Society of Independent Filmmakers' second annual Stinger Awards.